What's all this talk about Orgone generators? Orgone accumulators. Alright, I'm going to talk for a minute about Orgone. Orgone, this energy that Wilhelm Reich had claimed to have discovered. He believed that the blue around the Earth was caused by what he called orgone, and etheric energy, the etheric field. He built an Orgone accumulator, he called it. It was a metal box that you can look for plans for online. It consists of various layers of metal, which claims to use the Earth's electromagnetic energy, and creates a resonant type chamber that can claim to heal the sick and whatnot. He went to jail. He had all these issues with the law. People called him a fraud. People called him a hero. In the end, he died in prison. Years later, now people are taking his ideas of Orgone accumulators, which included this giant chamber as well as these huge pipes, which he claimed he could dispel clouds, break up rain clouds and whatnot. Very large units. And somehow in the year 2000, this, I believe it was a husband and wife, claimed that they have discovered this, a newer method based on his methods of making these Orgone accumulators, or these Orgone energy cubes, and they started selling them. And basically what it is sawdust shavings and some filings from aluminum, mixed up in some epoxy resin, put into a cupcake tin or a pie plate, and then hardened. And then this resin is pulled out in these beautiful pyramid-like shapes with these little rocks, stones, shavings. Some people put coins in them. And by the things I've read and the various videos I've seen, people are claiming that they do everything from healing the sick to bringing you love and energy and success and happiness. I could sit and probably read you a dozen web pages with all the claims that this Orgone energy does. But really, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. I think it's bullshit, and I think it's a hoax, and I think it's nonsense. And I'm posing that friendly so for anyone who actually has scientific evidence to show me that these Orgone, these mini little Orgone accumulators work, without referring back to the original Wilhelm Reich's work, which may have some credibility to it. If you've built a giant Orgone accumulator unit that you can actually sit inside like he did, feel free. If you're just building a little resin unit, setting it on your tabletop and claiming that it's curing radiation, well, I'd like to see the science behind that. I even watched a couple of videos from one guy dispelling it who had actually tried to prove how some of these things don't work. He set one of them on. Made one just like per instructions, set it on top of his router to try to block the frequency, or the electromagnetic frequency or radiation, which is coming out of it. And he had no results. In fact, he even tried with the banana as the placebo, since bananas are radioactive because of the potassium in them. The banana actually affected the signal more, actually increased the signal, and the Orgone did nothing, as expected. So let me explain that Orgone and a resinous blob are not the same thing. So when you see these things that they call Orgone blocks or Orgone accumulators, they really have nothing to do with this Orgone. Now, let's step aside for a minute and just imagine an argument a person might present, that it's the intention of the user. Maybe so. But if this is true, you might as well use a gelatinous blob of dirt. You could use anything. Some of these people, the claims that these people are making about the Orgone energy it's just more snake oil to me. And the reason I'm speaking out on this is because other people have, and because I believe that if people are going to be suckers and fall for this stuff, then, they should be called out on it, at least understand what they're, and question themselves to what they have, and whether or not they actually have any evidence to support what they believe. And if they don't want evidence and they don't need to prove anything, that's just fine with me too. I'm just saying that I would like to believe that these things work, but I don't. And I have no evidence whatsoever to show that they do, except for people accusing that people are just saying people are asleep. So, these, the original one that he built, these cloudbusters they call them, apparently people have been making these. They consist of these high-powered, I'm not sure how they work, but they're pipes that supposedly focus energy up into the clouds to dissipate clouds. Now, Wilhelm Reich supposedly used one of these once and successfully dissipated clouds. He only left it up for a couple days to show how it worked. Whereas some of these people say, well, we need to bust up these chemtrails, they're saying. And so they're putting these things up and leaving them up permanently. So let's just say that they do work. Just know that there are people putting up these things that bust up all moisture in the air, supposedly, thinking that it's going to help break up chemtrails. Well, let me tell you something. If you really believe that these chemtrails are chemical in nature, then busting up moisture in the air is going to do no good to relieve that. The fact is that 99% of these chemtrails are merely condensation, and that the small amount of them that may be used for geoengineering are not enough to warrant a constant fear of persistent contrails. Now, I'd like to see people aware of these things. I don't consider myself an expert on any of this, but I have researched these things quite a bit as far as chemtrails, and the Orgone thing just kind of came about by me hearing more about chemtrails, and so that's my take on it. I think it's bunk. I think it's more snake oil nonsense. You know, might as well just be a rabbit foot pendant. But if people are willing to admit that it's maybe the intention of the user, I can maybe see that. But even that warrants a little bit more evidence. That's just my opinion on Orgone energy as far as what people are presenting it as.